Hello, I've got a couple of paintings to show you today. I went to Cambridgeshire for the weekend, and the first is one that I did on the train coming home. I did this watercolour splodge layer first. I'm just crossing over the Tamar Bridge at this point, back to Cornwall. I'd taken a large pencil case with me and included a watercolour palette and some mixed media materials. I didn't really have much time for art over the weekend, and all I'd done was swatch out the materials I got with me. On the left-hand side is a mixture of luminance coloured pencils, Neocolour 2s, Tempera paint sticks and Faber-Castell gelatos, and then on the right-hand side are my watercolours. Here I've started to add layers to the sky and to the rocks. And this is it finished. I added tempera paint sticks and gelatos to the sky, mainly pencil to the cliffs, but also some Neocolour 2s. I used coloured pencils to add in the dog and the man, and some Neocolour 2 and tempera paint sticks for the sea. This sketch didn't take very long, maybe about 20 minutes in total. And then this afternoon I wanted to do some art, but I wasn't really sure what to do. I just pulled out these Rowney FW acrylic inks and some watercolour paper. I thought I'd start off by watering down the inks and just have a good play with them and see what happened. I used one of these jumbo droppers to add the water. And I used a silicone paintbrush to spread out the diluted ink. I'll put links in the description box below to all of the products that I use. I then did the same again with some turquoise acrylic ink. I've never diluted acrylic ink before like this, and it was really nice how the texture of the watercolour paper showed through. I wasn't really worried about design at this point. I was just enjoying playing with the inks and experimenting with how they layer and move across the paper. I've used these silicone brushes a few times now, and every time I've used them, I've actually been quite surprised with just how much I enjoy using them. They seem to have just the right amount of resistance in them and feel very smooth to use. I was honestly just having a great time playing with these, with zero worries about what the outcome would look like. I really do recommend playing with your art materials like this and just getting to know them and exploring without any pressure of a good result. I'm always glad that I've got my Canson XL watercolour paper on hand for this kind of thing. It's not 100% cotton watercolour paper, but I still really quite like it, and it's cheap enough that I don't mind using it for playing like this. So I've sped up the video a bit now, and I just carry on putting on ink and yeah, just messing around really. I then decide to even out my ink layers a bit and use this as a background for a painting. I use paper towels to blot off the excess ink and a heat tool to dry it off. I pick out this photo to use as a reference picture for my painting. I took it a few years ago when I was on a ferry leaving Saint-Malo in the north of France. As a side note, it was on this journey that I read the book All the Light We Cannot See, which was set in Saint-Malo, and it felt really poignant. Next, I get out my Himi gouache paint set and start painting the sky. I'm mindful that I'd like to keep a little bit of the background ink showing through, so I try and keep the paint a little bit see-through. I do the same again for the sea, but that ends up being a little bit more opaque. I suppose really I'm doing here what I'd call another Splodge and Scribble painting, where I'm filling in roughly the right areas with roughly the right colour paint, with the intention of coming in later with the scribble layer, which is where detail is added on top of this paint layer. I was quite mindful while I was doing this that I'd like to break away a little bit from how I've been doing landscape paintings, because they tend to get a little bit over detailed and a bit more true to life than I'd want them to be. I'm also aware that my colours tend to be quite vivid, and yet the art that I enjoy looking at seems to be a bit more muted and subtle. So I water down some white acrylic paint and go over the top of what I've already done. I'm using a Princeton catalyst tool here, which is like a silicone wedge. Next I'm ready for the scribble part, and for that I'm using a soft charcoal pencil. My natural inclination here is to do a really precise and detailed drawing that would take in all the different parts of these buildings. So I'm trying really hard not to get too detailed and just to put in the very vaguest of outlines. And I also make myself miss quite a bit out. I do find it quite a hard exercise though, but I want to make it in keeping with a non-realistic look of what I've got down so far. You can also see that I'm holding the pencil quite far down the barrel, and this is also in an attempt to keep a looser look. I then use a white charcoal pencil to put in all the windows and lots of little vessels. I think doing this is my most enjoyable part of the whole painting, and actually I always like putting the white details in other paintings that I do. It always seems to make things come to life a bit more. So I added some more Himi gouache for the large boat sail and the body of the boat, and then I continue with adding diluted ink and the odd touch of gouache. I was actually really happy with how this turned out. I felt like I was able to break out of my regular mould a little bit more, and I enjoyed doing all of the layers. I felt like the earlier random layers I did helped to add a little bit more element of chance to the painting and helped me not be quite so tight. This second painting took me just under 45 minutes to do. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing both of these paintings. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye!